For around the last 3 days or so, I've been playing Gotham Knights for an unhealthy amount of time. I've just been trying to play the main story in order to just have it done and get it out of the way because my backlog of games is currently unbelievable. With that being said, it wasn't as easy as I originally anticipated. This game has a crazy amount of side missions that are part of the main story, but they aren't actually done in the same manner as one would think. Some of the most common and frustrating side story missions include trying to get a certain demographic of enemies and interrogate them while fighting a kinda large group. The only reason I don't exactly like this is because 1, you do it way too often in the story, and 2, it's just not all that fun. I'm used to kind of doing story missions, like going to a waypoint and doing specific things, but these aren't actually waypointed. These enemies that you have to interrogate, you just have to go around looking for them. They're not in a specific area. You can accidentally kill them, which I've done twice, but even then, if you accidentally happen to do that, it's not even just one enemy that you need to interrogate, it's numerous. You can interrogate anywhere from 3 to 5, and there's probably even missions where you have to do even more than that. Aside from all these little side missions, the main story is honestly pretty good, and I was very surprised by it. One of my personal favorite missions actually includes a kind of speed death run, which really reminded me of a Fortnite death run, and I was like, where have I seen something like this before? And I was like, oh yeah, Fortnite. That is a kind of bad comparison because I know people talk crap about Fortnite all the time, but it's honestly not that bad, at least in that respect. Now, one thing that there is a little bit of good mixed with a little bit of bad, unfortunately, is the cutscenes. There is a lot of cutscenes in this game, and although some look amazing, there's others where they are just using them instead of putting loading screens, but the worst part is that they actually still have loading screens in this game. It's 2023, there should be no loading screens in video games anymore. People should know that you can just put a cutscene anywhere where there's supposed to be loading, and that's exactly what this game should have done, and they failed to do so, at least in all of the parts. It's just extremely noticeable when you go from having nice cutscenes everywhere and then just a random loading screen just thrown in there, and it throws you off, and it doesn't give you the best experience because you're just waiting. And you know, it always has to throw in a little tip screen up at the top, and it's like, well, you're waiting for this game to load forever. Might as well read a few tips, and they're not all that great. And I probably could have figured these out without this telling me. If I wanted to read these, I would. I don't want it shoved in my face. Now, before we get into some of the good, I do really need to talk about this, and it's probably one of the biggest faults of this entire game, and it's the combat system. When you go from playing a game like Spider-Man, and yes, I'm comparing Spider-Man to a Batman game, I know they're not similar, but the combat should be similar. If you know what I mean, like it's a superhero game. There needs to be similar combat, and when Spider-Man did it so well, like extremely well, that game is amazing for combat, so satisfying. This one, it's just, wow, it's not even comparable, it's so much worse. First of all, sometimes when you're fighting, you do get really weird camera angles, and that's not even the camera angles when you're trying to walk indoors, those are brutal. But this is bad because you're getting attacked by enemies, and you're just looking at walls some of the time. You don't even know where they are. You have to spin the camera around. It's kinda hectic, and it's not really the best. But then the counters, there is none. There is no way to counter attacks. All you can do is dodge, and it's not very good. Even if you time it right, the enemies will still hit you. It's brutal. Now, you're thinking, what's the transportation like in this game? Because you know for a fact you're not going to be sprinting around the map, because that would take you ages to get from point A to point B. In this game, you have two choices. You can either use your grappling hook, which is honestly quite satisfying, although there's no jumping, so you can only jump when you get on the edge of buildings But say you're on the ground and you're just on foot and you want to use your grappling hook, if the ledge is too high, you can't jump to get that extra little leap to get up to a grappling point. So if there's nothing in your vicinity that you can actually reach, you're kind of screwed. But there is an alternative, because say you're on foot, you don't want to grapple, or you can't. What you can do is pull out your bat cycle, which is a bat motorcycle. Honestly, a cool concept. It goes really quick. It makes it feel like you're playing GTA with the little waypoints and everything, how they appear on the ground. Tells you where to go. Perfect. You can even do a wheelie if you want to. But then when you do the wheelie, what is the front of the bike? It looks so weird. Like, I mean, it works and it is just a kind of visual thing, but it looks so weird. Why is the front wheel held on by two arm-looking things? I don't know why they decided to do it like this. I don't even think, is this what it looks like in movies? Do they have a bat cycle in Batman movies? I don't know. I personally haven't watched any of the new ones, so you tell me, but it looks awful. I know now I'm kind of just going off of everything I don't like about the game, which I hate, because there is some good things about this that need to be said, because I feel like not many people are talking about the actual good stuff. So I feel bad that I'm starting this off with the bad stuff, but hopefully we'll end this off on a good note. So, where to start with the good stuff? This game, the cutscenes, as I said previously, they're great, and I wouldn't even be mad if there was more cutscenes. This game it feels like 20% cutscenes, which is a lot. They're just so visually appealing, and I really like them. It's literally like you're watching a movie. That's exactly what I asked for when playing a video game. I love video games with a lot of cutscenes. I don't know if anyone else is also a fan of The Last of Us, but the cutscenes in that game just make it perfect. And I don't even know if there's any other game that I can compare it to. Now, there definitely are some parts where you can tell they are just adding cutscenes just for the sake of making the game longer. This game is not a long playthrough. I would say you could probably beat the whole thing in like 5 or 6 hours. It's not long whatsoever. And honestly, I would recommend getting it done in as soon as possible, just so that you don't forget what's going on. I feel like you get the best playthrough experience if you do it all in a few sittings. I know a lot of people won't be a fan of this style of a game where there's just so many cutscenes, but honestly, what more could you ask for if the gameplay isn't all that good, if the combat isn't good? If the grappling isn't that good, the transportation isn't good, I mean, you gotta make up for it somewhere, and they definitely did that in the cutscenes. Now, as I was saying before, there is some actual good story missions. As long as you're not doing the side story missions, which they make you do, the actual story missions are great, and I don't find that they get repetitive at all. There's one part where you're in kind of like a deep freezer and everything is frozen around you. There's one where you're literally in a maze and you have to get out of it, and it just goes on and on. I don't want to spoil too much of it if you haven't played this. That's why I'm not going too in depth, but I feel like this stuff will be valuable in terms of knowledge about the game before you go and purchase it. Now, what else is there to talk about? The price. The price is a huge factor on deciding whether or not you want to pull the trigger and buy this game. For me personally, this was a gift. I put it on my wish list for Christmas because I didn't want to buy it myself, but I do know that it went on sale extremely quickly. I know it came out maybe a month ago, maybe just over a month ago, and it was already on sale for Boxing Day, and I think it's still on sale on the Xbox store, and I would say for the sale price, pick it up for sure. For me, I think the actual price was $80, maybe $90 Canadian with tax included, and that is crazy expensive. I wouldn't recommend spending that much money on this short game, but if it's on sale for like 40% off, 50% off, honestly, anything 40 and above, I would say go for it, because you'll have a good time playing this if this is your style of game. If you've played other superhero games, if you've played Spider-Man, I know I said it's not comparable, but it clearly tries to be a little bit like Spider-Man and like the other Arkham games. The Arkham games, I would say they are definitely better, but if you want to try something a little bit different, you can play as 4 different characters. I mean, knock yourself out, I would recommend it. For me personally, I only played as Red Hood, but you could play as 3 other characters, including Robin. I only didn't play as another character because it takes so long to level them up and get upgrades, and I didn't want to put that much hours into this game. Each character plays through the exact same story, and I believe you can just switch out in the middle of a playthrough. So I would recommend starting off with one character and just playing the whole game through. Unless you want to be a little bit underleveled and have to grind for XP, definitely do what I did. But I think that covers just about everything. If it wasn't clear what my verdict was on this game, I like it. I do like it, although there is quite a few problems with the game. The story does make up for all of the aspects of the game that aren't quite as good. I would give it a solid 7. Other people might rate it a bit lower, but I feel like that's the perfect spot for this game to go on the out of 10 spectrum. It didn't surprise me in many areas, and it was definitely a little bit underwhelming in a few, but I definitely don't think it was a bad game. There's bad parts, yes, but there's also good parts to it, and honestly, I think I would play it again. Maybe in a year or 2. It gets old kind of quick with the combat and everything, but I would definitely give it another try with another character, maybe in a year or so. But until then, I think I'm gonna play a good game and try and finish one of the Batman Arkham games, or maybe the entire series, so you might see a video on that. But that's going to be all for me. I hope you guys did enjoy this kind of in-depth review of what I thought of this game. And I hope it gave you a good little bit of insight on if you want to make the purchase for yourself. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks for watching. And a huge thanks goes out to all of my Patreon members and supporters. If you want to know more about how to become a Patreon member and a member of the channel, all that information will be linked down in the description of the video.